Welcome one, welcome all. There are many four-letter words in the English language, but the one we love the most is live, L-I-V-E, because you are looking at a live shot of Deshaun Watson and the Houston Texans stretching. It's important to get loose before you do any physical activity, so the Texans are doing that. They're stretching. They're going through a dynamic stretch. They're going through some static maybe as well. DP Sidhu is joining me, Drew Doherty, here inside the Texans Ford studio, and this is going to be a fun one. Texans Training Camp Live is going on, and for the fourth day, you and I are kind of calling what's going on, and we'll bring in John Harris in just a little bit from practice. But DP, lots going on here on a Tuesday.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun to cover live practice camp, and you can see the wall of virtual fans also watching camp as well. And we welcome the rest of you that are joining us right now, and we're going to bring you some of the action from today's practice. Bill O'Brien already kicked things off with his press conference early today. That just wrapped up a few minutes ago, so we'll bring you some of the big news of the day so far. But right now, like Drew said, the team is stretching. O'Brien actually talked about Deshaun Watson because we see a lot of veterans getting some rest days out there early in camp as they ramp up. Deshaun Watson, not one of those guys. He's getting a lion's share of the reps as he gets things going with the offense and some of his new receivers, new pieces on offense like the running backs. And today should be no different. But A.J. McCarron also getting in some work.
Yeah, you know, O'Brien was asked in the press conference that you just mentioned a few moments ago. He was asked, and it's a good question, hey, how come you don't get more reps for A.J. McCarron and for Alex Magoo, who's the third-string quarterback this year? And O'Brien said, listen, you have a limited amount of time to practice as set by the league, the NFLPA, and if you give everyone equal reps, you're going to lose a lot of experience, a lot of knowledge for Deshaun Watson. So he needs to get the, like you say, the lion's share of those reps so this team and this offense can operate the way they want it to. We want to take your questions today. We love hearing from you, so just comment below from whatever social media platform you're watching us on. We love to answer as many as possible. And it doesn't matter if you're from Houston, doesn't matter if you're from outer Mongolia. We'll answer your questions. So get at us, Ulaanbaatar. Like Kelly. Kelly comes at us with this one, DP.
Okay.
She wants to know who's winning the running back position, David Johnson or Duke Johnson or both. David Johnson's going to be the starter. He's a starter right now. Everything we've seen from him so far has been magnificent. We like the skill set. We like what he can do and the size. It's something that the Texans haven't seen around here since Arian Foster. Now, David Johnson's got to do that on a more consistent basis before you start saying he's like Arian Foster. But that one All-Pro season was very reminiscent of stuff that number 23 used to do for the Texans. But he's got to stack it on continually because that has been the problem for David Johnson in his NFL career.
Yeah, I think for all intents and purposes, David Johnson looks like that healthy David Johnson out there in camp so far. And everyone's been raving about him. Mark Vandermeer, John Harris, they're out there doing live radio, and even they are wowed by how good he looks out there on the field, how comfortable, how fast, how explosive he looks. And that's really been the issue with him. David Johnson said the same thing. He said it was an injury and then offensive coordinators changing in Arizona. He hopes to sort of get things off to a fresh start here. He loves the fact that he's working with Duke Johnson. Duke Johnson talked about David Johnson yesterday. He said, there's nothing this guy does, absolutely nothing, were his exact words, that surprises him because he's been following his career. They came out the same draft year, and he's been following his career in Arizona.
A young guy from Miami in Duke Johnson, who you just saw a moment ago, number 25, and a young guy from northern Iowa in David Johnson, number 31. Those guys, it really is amazing, as you point out, that they came out the same year in the draft, and they've had different careers so far. We've got questions coming in. We're going to hear from John Harris in just a moment, but Johnny from Santa Barbara, California, or Joni, I apologize if it's spelled or pronounced wrong, but Johnny wants to know, or Joni wants to know, how is Kahale Waring doing? Kahale's on a different ramp-up schedule. We've not seen much of him so far in camp, but he has not practiced on the field with some of the guys. He's been doing other work, and we'll see when we get him out there, when he gets out there. But the skill set is very tantalizing. The stuff he can do, very, very tantalizing. We've talked about it a few times already throughout camp, DP.
Yeah, we saw flashes of it last year in rookie minicamp. I mean, he looked so athletic and so natural out there. He just seemed like when he is healthy and on the field, he's going to be a problem. You know, last year was getting used to the offense and getting used to the speed of the NFL. You know, he is essentially still a rookie. And Bill O'Brien was asked about Kahale Waring and a few other players that have not been practicing. He said that they're managing a lot of soft tissue things. They just don't want to exacerbate anything right now in camp. So they're ramping up guys very, very slowly, which is what you want to see considering There was no off-season workout program, but next week looks like there will be some scrimmages, so we'll get to see a little bit more of these guys in action.
You see the guys going through the drills right now as far as getting loose with their legs and whatnot, and something that we really want to see more of is Jordan Thomas, number 83 in blue, the tight end. He has had a very, very impressive camp through 4 or 5 days so far. Dominique wants to know, what's the outlook on Jordan Thomas right now? You know, it's a crowded tight end spot. Darren Fells caught 7 touchdown passes last year. Jordan Akins led the tight ends group in yards receiving for that position. Jordan Thomas, so you can't forget about this guy. He's big. He had 4 touchdown catches as a rookie 2 years ago, and he has slimmed down. He has a different outlook, a different attitude of sort. He even has braces on his teeth, so his smile is going to be even brighter than it already was, and he had a bright one to begin with. So Jordan Thomas, the outlook, pretty sunny right now, DP.
I think it's a positive outlook for him. I think the fact that he's out there and he's healthy, he had a fantastic camp last year. Let's not forget, he was doing phenomenally. It was an injury in that 4th preseason game that set him back for last season, and then it was just hard to sort of get back into the lineup once he was taken off injured reserve, because you know how it is when you've not played football for a number of games. You got to get used to the speed when everybody else is already at full speed. So I hope that if he stays healthy, that we can see some of the glimpses of what we saw 2 years ago and what we were seeing in camp last year. He can carry it on into the season.
Yeah, Jordan Thomas, they're looking for him to be a leader in the tight end group. Join guys like Darren Fells as well as Jordan Akins. You know, a leader up front on the offensive line is Nick Martin. He's the center. He has to kind of make all the calls and do everything right. You see him right there, number 66. He worked out this offseason during the quarantine, during the pandemic, with Max Sharping, the rookie left guard, as well as fullback Cullen Gillespie, the rookie from last year. I say rookie, they were 2019 rookies. They're second-year vets now. But you had a chance to go one-on-one with him recently, and here is a snippet of that wonderful conversation. This is A Deep Slant with Nick Martin.
Entering year 5, fresh off the practice field. Nick, how's it going for you in camp so far? Not the camp that anyone was expecting, but certainly the camp that's underway these days.
It's going real good. I just want to start off with a little yeah dog, so I don't get fined by the O-line. But no, the camp's going really well. The organization is doing an unbelievable job. I mean, the stuff they've changed around the building and how we're handling the whole COVID situation, very responsible. And it shows a lot of faith. You know, when you see from the top down how they handle it, how serious they're taking it, they want to win. And, you know, it starts at the top, so that trickles down. We love it as players.
I mean, I noticed that you're wearing the cutoff shirt because it looks like you bulked up this off season. I heard a lot about Martin's Gym. I don't know if franchises are opening up around the country, but you had a little bit of a workout sesh happening at your house. Tell me about that.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, I grew up, we had a gym in my basement growing up. My dad always lifted and kind of started at a young age with my brothers and whatnot. And, you know, COVID, things change. You got to adapt, and that's what we did. So we had a little gym in the garage and had guys over to work out and do what you need to do because the work doesn't stop, you know.
All right, I want to end this interview with a little word association. Since you know your starting 5 so well, I'm going to throw out a name, and I want to know the first word that pops into your mind. Okay? Should be easy since you all know each other so well.
Good.
All right, Laramie.
Thrift store.
Thrift store. I'm totally
he's got all this nice stuff. He always says it gets from the thrift store, but you know, I think.
All right, Max Sharping.
Solitaire. He's an 85-year-old man. He plays solitaire.
Is he really?
Oh yeah, he's like Dwight Schrute.
Okay, Zach.
Just a chill guy. He's awesome. Same guy every day. Funny. Waterboy. There you go. Waterboy. Loves the movie Waterboy. Always quoting it. Always can get a good laugh from him. A good quote.
I'm gonna have to remember that when I interview Zach. All right, Titus.
Oh man, just funny. I mean, Titus is so funny. Like I feel like he doesn't even mean to be funny sometimes. But he's just so honest, and which is awesome. And it really makes him funny because he speaks the truth.
All right, last but not least, Nick Martin.
Me?
One word to describe yourself.
Simple. I like to keep it simple.
Simple. I like it. Well, it's always fun catching up with you, Nick. Best of luck in camp. Best of luck through the season. Always a pleasure.
All right. Thank you very much.
That word association game that I played with Nick Martin, I feel like I learned more about the starting 5 offensive linemen than when I actually sat down with each of them one-on-one. We've got to bring that back for more guys. But one point about Martin's gym, Nick told me once we had finished recording the interview, he said that his neighbors would walk by every day and see all these big offensive linemen and football players working out. And he said one day finally they said, "Are you athletes?" I said, something tipped them off. So he said it was really funny. The neighbors were all walking by every day wondering what they were doing out there.
Oh, that could be an indictment, though, if they're having to ask if the guys were athletes.
I think it was an elderly couple.
Yeah. I wonder what athletes look like to those people.
My mom would
asking.
probably do the same. Yeah.
Well, hey, we've got people out here watching from California. A guy named Dan is down in the valley checking this out. Oscar's in El Salvador. Thank you, Oscar, for watching. And then it just says Kerrville, so I'm going to take that as Kerrville, Texas. Could it be Johnny Manziel, famous Kerrville Ty the Antler? Probably not, but nonetheless, we're happy that you're watching us from Kerrville. And up in Willis, on the south end of the Piney Woods, is Paul. And Paul wants to know, do you think Randall Cobb, is going to be good for our team? And yes, I do think Randall Cobb is going to be good for the Houston Texans. You see him there going through some drills with the other wide receivers. And Randall Cobb, I got a chance to talk with him yesterday. Still settling in, still getting his chemistry right with Deshaun Watson. He said it's been a two-edged sword, not going through OTAs and not going through minicamps. He does feel fresher physically. He's not gone through as much wear and tear like everybody else. But he hasn't had a chance to build up that time in the system with Deshaun Watson. Nevertheless, he's easily the most accomplished slot receiver this franchise has ever had. And if they get production out of him like he has produced in his career, it's going to be a big bonus for the Texans. It's going to be the best time the Texans have ever had a slot receiver, and I can't wait to see what that does for Deshaun Watson, what that does for this offense, DP.
Yeah, Randall Cobb is no rookie when it comes to dealing with new quarterbacks. So I think the chemistry will come with time. If not, it may already be there because Deshaun Watson is building chemistry with a lot of guys. He does it very quickly. And the thing that we don't talk enough about Randall Cobb is the fact that he was wearing the wrong prescription for his eyes for the last 2 years, and he finally got that fixed. Imagine how good you'd be feeling out there if you could finally see everything clearly. So I think fantasy numbers for everybody are going to go up after this. But I'm really looking forward to seeing how Randall Cobb fits into this offense because a slot receiver complementing Will Fuller and Brandon Cooks and all the outside guys should be a lot of fun to watch. And I think Cobb is going to eat this year.
Yeah, and Bill O'Brien earlier, about 45 minutes ago, talked about how Randall Cobb has been a good influence on Kiki QT,
That's
who
true,
this team drafted to be the future at the slot receiver position. So he said Kiki has picked up a lot of good tips from Randall Cobb, and he is picking up some good stuff. So we'll see what happens there with those two, the guys behind him, Stevie Mitchell. So Randall Cobb, nonetheless, going to be a good addition to this ball club. And sticking with wide receivers, we've got a question about Will Fuller, and Jamal wants to know how's number 15 looking, and so far, looking really good. He's been healthy. He's bigger. He's up at 190 pounds. He worked this offseason like we've heard from Will himself, worked on his posture, worked on his mechanics of just movement. And so I have to work on my posture. My posture is horrible. I cringe every time I see a picture of me on this set because I look like Mr. Burns scooted over like that. But we'll see what happens. But no matter what, if Will Fuller is healthy for 14, 15, 16 games in this offense, who knows what the Texans can do. The sky, like he said, is the limit.
I mean, Will Fuller is a hard worker. He has great chemistry. He's one of the nicest guys. You and I have had a chance to talk to him. You know, I think with him, Bill O'Brien has said it numerous times, with him, it's just going to be health. If he can be healthy, we all know what a game changer he is. You know, when he's in a game and he's healthy, how different this offense looks and how different you feel about this offense when he's out there on the field. So, you know, I think this ramp-up period, if it's benefiting anybody, it might benefit Will Fuller because he's going to have a chance to ease into things, and I'm sure they're not going to overdo it with any of these veteran guys heading into camp. Yesterday, Bill O'Brien talked about J.J. Watt, why he's not practicing. He's like, you know, look, these guys, we know J.J. Watt knows how to play football. So he'll get his stuff done in the weight room, and then football will give some new guys reps out there on the field. And I think we can say this very similar things probably about Will Fuller. We know that he's the guy. He's going to be a target for Deshaun Watson. He's really good at what he does. You see him out there catching passes. We do see him out there doing some of these individual drills and working with the quarterbacks, and then maybe in team drills, you see some of the younger guys getting some reps out there.
And it's interesting to watch this footage, which is the only place you're going to see the Texans training camp live, and really in this much volume. I mean, you don't get 30 minutes of practice that you get to watch anywhere else.
Every single day.
But you see Deshaun Watson there, and that's Alex Magoo, who just threw a pass. But the guy with that red pad on his arm, that's TJ Yates, a folk hero here in the Houston Texans land. Had 3 different stints with the team. His earliest one, he led the Texans to the playoffs and guided them there as the quarterback down the stretch. That guy in the white sort of tank top looking thing with blue sleeves, that's Tim Kelly, the offensive coordinator. So they're working with the quarterbacks, going through things and going through drills. As TJ, he's still limber. He can still move around. You've got Kyle Kamau doing the snaps there. He's part of the equipment staff, has been here for about a decade or so. And there, again, is A.J. McCarron, the backup. And we got a question all the way from Ireland. I wonder if it's from Cork, if it's from Dublin. But nevertheless, it's Lee from Ireland. Lee wants to know, do you think we will go to the playoffs? I do. Bill O'Brien's been here 6 years. The Texans have gone to the playoffs in 4 of them. The other years that they didn't, it was his first year. They still went 9-7. And the other year was the year Deshaun Watson got injured midstream. Yeah, and it was a disaster. But yes, I do think the Texans will go to the playoffs. Deshaun Watson, boy, when he's under center, he's your guy. And he is the guy who can lead you to the playoffs. And it's a little bit easier this time around because they've added 1 more playoff spot per conference. So, yeah, the Texans have won the AFC South the last couple years. I know not everybody out in the media and in fandom thinks that they're going to do it again, but I do. I think you probably do as well, and I can't wait to see what happens.
Yeah, I think every year you see Deshaun Watson taking another step. Last year he won his first playoff game. The year before it was his first playoff appearance. This year, obviously, they hope they can take it a lot further and deeper into the playoffs. But from everything we've seen so far about Deshaun Watson in camp and everything we've heard about him in camp is that he is so comfortable out there running this offense. This really is his team. He's been in the system now for, 4 years? This is year 4 for him.
Yeah.
So he has a full understanding of what's happening on the field, and the way he gets in and out of plays, everything is just so much smoother. The communication is smoother. I was asking Nick and Martin about this yesterday. The two of them were roomies at the Greenbrier in West Virginia back in 2017. So he has sort of seen Deshaun Watson develop from a rookie until now. And he said, yeah, every single year it just seems like he was always confident, but that communication and how he carries himself on the field has just gotten smoother and quicker and faster. And I mean, if he was confident before, he definitely has that confidence now. So I think as long as you've got Deshaun Watson, everything is a possibility with him. So I would never count us out of the playoffs.
They were roomies at the Greenbrier in 2017.
Yes.
I'm guessing they had floral patterns on the wall because that's
I'm
kind of
sure
the way
of it.
the Greenbrier is decorated, the rooms there. So can you imagine that as a rookie, you're an NFL football player, a first-round draft pick, your first training camp, you got floral patterns on your wall. Maybe that's something that he likes. Maybe that's something that he doesn't know about. I just had someone say something in my ear that I didn't understand because I was yammering, but I think we're going to go to John Harrison just a little bit. But first, we're going to hear from Laramie Tunsil and why he is a top 100 performer. In just a little bit, we'll hear that. But Laramie Tunsil is off to a great start in camp. One thing, DP, that we've heard about as far as how this offensive line has progressed over the last few months, per se, they've been able to work together, they've been able to talk together, they've been able to communicate together. That chemistry is paramount. We have hammered this home time and time again over the last month or two. But 6 games together, those guys started. Texans won 5 of them. When you think about how late Laramie Tunsil got there, and then you had 2 rookies in there in Titus Howard and Max Sharping, it's remarkable. And I can't wait to see what they do with a full complement and a full season together.
I mean, just think about where this team was a year ago in camp. There was no Laramie Tunsil. Titus and Max were still rookies. We weren't even really sure where they were going to fit in the lineup. You had Nick Martin at center. You had Zach Fulton there at right guard. Other than that, your tackle situation was still very much up in the air. So even Bill O'Brien said the tackle situation, they feel really good about where it's at right now. And to have the starting 5 return is something that even Laramie said it's something he's never experienced in his NFL career. So you've got Laramie on the left side. He's now had a full offseason. He sort of got thrown into the mix last year. He was a veteran guy, but obviously we saw Labor Day weekend, he gets thrown in here, and it took him a while to sort of adjust to everything. But he's really helped Max Sharping along. Even Titus says he looks to Laramie for guidance. But I think that entire unit has really gelled together. We've heard that they sort of move as a unit in and out of the building. They're in sync. It's so amazing to me that every single year in camp, I think since I've been here, we've had our eyes on the offensive line and who's going to start where. There was always a position or two that we were questioning. And now heading into camp, this is one thing that we have sort of checked off our list, something we don't need to worry about. As long as everyone's healthy, we've got the starting 5 up front.
All right, we got another question from the fans, and it's Hunter from Humble, I believe. And Hunter wants to know, is Isaiah Coulter practicing? He practiced yesterday. The rookie from Rhode Island is big. He's unlike a lot of the other wide receivers on this team. In fact, he's just bigger physically. He's 6 feet. He's got some bulk to him, 200 pounds. It's going to be tough for him to crack, not the starting rotation, of course, but just getting playing time because of what's ahead of him at that position. But yes, he has practiced, Hunter. Isaiah Coulter is going through the work.
Yeah, and Bill O'Brien, I think, has talked about him as well. He made some plays in yesterday's practice, but I think that's going to be the biggest hurdle for some of these rookies and undrafteds is just the speed of the game, and they haven't had the offseason. They've not had a rookie mini camp like most rookies do. Even with all of that in place, it's still a challenge for rookies to get acclimated here in camp. And now out there, you're fighting for reps with a lot of the guys that are new to the team that are, Randall Cobbs, and you've got Brandon Cooks out there, obviously. So you want to get those guys reps because there's only so many reps to go around for everyone. So on top of that, Isaiah Coulter and the rookies are going to have to just make the most of every opportunity they have so that when or if their number is called, they're ready. But, all you can hope for is that they're going through camp and they're acclimating to the offense. But it's going to be a challenge, I think, for these rookies, especially in the season that we're having this year.
And think about rookies from last year as we look at one of them, number 71, Titus Howard, their right tackle. He's next to 73, Zach Fulton, the right guard, who signed a new deal this offseason. Titus Howard, this time last year, was not playing right tackle. He was bouncing around. Same with Max Sharping. And then once you get to week 3, the Los Angeles Chargers game, you put him in, Titus Howard, at right tackle. You put Max Sharping in at left guard. And this Texans offense started to kind of gel, and the offensive line started to gel. And they went against a pass rush out there with the Chargers. Bosa, Ingram, those guys can mess with you. And they didn't let the Chargers mess with Deshaun Watson. Texans put up 30-some points that day. It looked really, really good. It's like you said, though, you need an acclimation period. You need some time. As far as Coulter goes, going from Rhode Island and what you saw there versus what you're going to see in the NFL, massive, massive leap.
We see Kiki QT out there, number 16, also getting some reps. Bill O'Brien talked about him having a great camp right now so far. I know everybody's wondering what's going on with Kiki QT now that you got Randall Cobb. Where does he fit into the mix? But he's come back. He's healthy. And, when he is out there, he is so productive. But he's just battled a lot with, Bill O'Brien said, hamstring, ankle last year. Against the Colts, he had a 100-yard receiving game. So you know that he's productive when he's out there. He's worked really hard this offseason. And you see him out there. He's having a great camp so far. So you hope to see that going because you certainly know what he can bring to this offense when he is out there, especially on special teams as a returner.
No doubt. Okay, in just a bit, we're going to hear from John Harris. But right now, we got that top 100 piece on Laramie Tunsil, the left tackle for your Houston Texans. Check this out.
The Houston Texans thought so highly of Laramie Tunsil that they gave up 2 first-round picks to bring him to Texas. And the former first-round pick of the Dolphins rewarded their faith.
It's always, can you protect a guy like Deshaun Watson?
In 2018, quarterback Deshaun Watson was sacked a league-high 62 times. With big number 78 protecting his blind side, that total dropped to 44 in 2019.
Rock and roll! Touchdown to Will Fuller! And the Texans are rolling on offense.
The very few times that he gets beat, that he's able to recover from that. And it's amazing just to watch it.
Work that edge, man, because I chopped and clubbed him and had him, but Tunsil came back down. Good job, baby. Go.
Tunsil boasts a wide base, quick feet, and the ability to get off the snap. He primarily utilizes a 2-point stance, and he devours pass rushers.
They gave him all kinds of time.
He's a good tackle. He deserves everything he gets. You try to speed rush him, he's there.
Tunsil allowed just 3 sacks on the season, giving Watson clean pockets on his way to throwing 26 touchdown passes.
Watson throwing, back of the end zone. Touchdown, Houston!
Yeah, Tunsil, no question, has been a huge asset here.
Huge hole on the left side as Hyde takes it in against his former team.
The former Ole Miss standout became the first Texans offensive lineman named to the Pro Bowl since Dwayne Brown in 2014.
Just a little screen there. 78 Laramie Tunsil with a nice block there. You can do this play when you have an athletic tackle like Laramie Tunsil.
Following the season, Houston signed Tunsil to a 3-year, $66 million contract, making him the highest-paid offensive lineman in NFL history.
Laramie Tunsil, excellent in year number 1 as a Houston Texan, and bigger and better things expected from him in year number 2. This is Texans Training Camp Live. Drew Doherty, DP Sidhu. We've heard from folks in Ireland, in Humble, in Willis, and now we're going to hear from a guy right across the street from NRG Stadium at the Houston Methodist Training Center. Excellence himself in John Harris. John, what's going on, my friend? How you doing today?
Doing pretty well, Drew. DP, hope you guys are okay. The practice is starting off with a little bit of goal line, and that is absolutely awesome. I mean, awesome. Broderick McKinney just made a huge stop on the goal line, and the defense got really fired up. This has been pretty cool drill. There are only 2 plays in, and I'm already geeked.
Yes, and we saw someone doing some push-ups, so I'm guessing that was the offense because they failed to score, and it looks like the defense did well again there. But this is always, like you mentioned, a drill in practice. When you get the ones versus the ones, you get everybody's blood going, everybody's juices flowing, and we've seen over the years some fun stuff, most notably on Hard Knocks, the year the NFL Films crews followed this team around, J.J. Watt getting in there DP and doing some good stuff.
I just remember that woman screaming from the stands the entire time J.J. Watt was on the field. And he was like, is she going to lose her voice? But I was hearing that scream in my sleep, and I think so was J.J. for several weeks after that. But this is probably one of the best drills to see out at camp when there's 11 on 11 or when there's goal line drills, and you see both offense and defense get fired up. I mean, that's really the only way they can bring juice, Johnny. But what have you seen so far in practice today? Any standouts for you today?
Well, I haven't seen too much. They've just been doing individual period. This is the first thing they've done of a competitive nature today down on the goal line. So this is the first thing. And it's really, one of those, you get kind of in the throes of training camp. You're like, man, you need something to give a little bit of juice. And goal line always gives a little bit of juice. The defense is doing a really nice job thus far. And the defense has an advantage. They just got to bow their neck and play the run. The first play, Deshaun threw a little boot out to Duke Johnson to try and keep him honest. But, this is a drill for the defense to really kind of show what they're all about. And it makes it tough on the offense. It's not the easiest place in the world to score from. So, this is good work for them as well. And A.J. McCarron is leading the group right now, trying to get them in the end zone.
Hey, John, we were talking a little bit earlier about the relationship between Deshaun Watson, you see there, number 4 in the red, and number 66, Nick Martin, his center. How key is that? And then over to Watson's left, you see a guy in dark with a dark hat and a white stripe. That's T.J. Yates. How important is that communication? Because T.J. is kind of segued over as an assistant from helping with the offensive line last year to helping with quarterbacks this year, as we see some push-ups being done by the offensive guys there on the second string.
Well, I think when you're talking about a guy like TJ, when you can sit in the meeting room, and look, there have been some great quarterback coaches and great offensive coordinators and play callers that didn't play in the NFL, but when you have a guy that played in the NFL and said, hey, I remember when I played Jacksonville in 2012, they did this to me. I remember when I played this team, they did this to me. I remember when I was at the Falcons in 2014, we did this when we got this kind of look. He understands. He knows what goes into playing that particular position. And not only that, TJ knows what it takes playing that position with Bill O'Brien as the head coach. Not play call this year, but TJ knows that. He knows to go through that situation. And it's not the easiest thing, but I remember when Deshaun was a rookie, it was TJ Yates who helped him learn this offense, learn the basics of this offense before he ended up getting into his first rookie camp up at the Greenbrier. So, TJ's been a huge help. And I like, TJ's disposition too, I think is perfect too. He's an intense guy in his own way, but he just has kind of a way to hit you with that little sly, wry smile, and you feel good. You kind of, drop your guard down, if you will, and you're going to listen to a guy like that. So I think TJ Yates has got a whale of a future in front of him as a football coach in this league, and I think he is going to be a really perfect fit with Deshaun Watson and with Tim Kelly in that quarterback position.
Johnny, I know we've talked about safeties and defensive backs a bunch, and Bill O'Brien's been talking about them a lot as well, but Eric Murray and Justin Reed, Thunder and Lightning. Justin Reed is nicknamed the duo. They seem to be having some really good communication out there early on in camp. How about the rest of the safety group? I actually am going to sit down with Jalen Watkins today, so selfishly I'm going to ask you what your early thoughts of him are and where he fits into the mix, and what do you see behind the duo of Murray and Reed? How's everyone else looking out there at safety?
Well, Thunder and Lightning is Justin Reed giving them a nickname already, which is interesting, but I'll leave that for a different day and time. But I think they fit. I think Eric's comment yesterday, I think, showed what exactly you want in a safety position. You want two guys that complement each other, and I think that's what they do. And I think in certain cases in the NFL, you can have two safeties that are kind of similar, and so you can do a lot of interchanging. You can, if there's motion or shifts, you can just, hey, one guy comes up, one guy goes back. They do some different things with that, but they are pretty different. Eric Murray, along with Jalen Watkins, they played corner in college. And that, I think, helps them, because when you think about a traditional safety, you think about big, knock off the ball safety, 6'1", 215-pound kind of guys. That's not what these guys are. You look at all these guys, and I watch the defensive backs now, and there's Eric Murray just making a play on a ball. They look like corners, and those are the guys playing safety. But you need to have safeties that can cover in today's NFL, because if you don't, you'll be the 32nd in the league in total defense, because you'll just get scorched. Because you have to have guys that can cover, or you're just going to be playing zone the whole game, and teams are going to dink and dunk their way all the way down until they put it in the end zone. So from that perspective, they're different. And Justin is obviously the linchpin. He can do anything at 6'1", 6'2", 205, 210. He can do anything that they ask him to do. So having Eric Murray, having Jalen Watkins, it takes pressure off of them, because Reed has the pressure on him to do some of those things. So I think it's a good fit back there with Reed, with Murray, Reed, with Watkins. But the fact that they have corner cover skills and cover experience, I think that helps them tremendously.
Well, you talk about corner cover skills, and you talk about size, and you talk about the safety position. A guy who kind of fits all those boxes as far as checking them off is a guy you talked about all season long. You've talked about it a little bit through training camp with DP and I, but I think it's time we focus a little bit more on number 32, who we saw having some fun, staying loose there just a moment ago as we look at Eric Murray and some of the other safeties. But we're talking, of course, about Lonnie Johnson, number 32. It's his second year, and we've discussed some of the other guys on offense who we look to take nice leaps in year two after solid rookie years. But Lonnie Johnson could be one of those guys, and at corner yet last year, had some moments, had some good times, but he might be better suited towards playing as a safety in some packages in this offense. Right, John?
I think there are some things you obviously can do with Lonnie Johnson because of his size, his movement skills. He spent all summer, again, working with the footwork king right here in Houston to work on that foot quickness, because if he's asked to be a perimeter corner, he's going to have to be a guy that can move and run with the Tyreek Hills of the world. And I don't know if that's ultimately works best for him, but if he can prove that he can run that way and move that way and just open up more opportunities for things he can do in the secondary, my God, there's a lot you can do with him. And the more interchangeable pieces that you have in the secondary, I've always thought the better, because you're able to disguise so much more. When certain guys come into a game, quarterbacks pick that up like, oh man, hey, number 35's in the game. We haven't seen him in the game. That means it's a different package. Oh, that means that it must be this sort of scheme that they're showing us. Well, if you have the same guys out on the field, but you're showing the quarterback different schemes, you're just playing with his head a little bit. And so now you're seeing Lonnie out wide. Then you're seeing Lonnie lined up at safety maybe. Now Lonnie's lined up line of scrimmage, look like he might blitz. Like, wait a second. They got one guy doing all these different things, and then you throw a Justin Reed on top of that, and the combinations can end up being endless in some sense. So you give a quarterback different pictures with the same personnel. Man, that is really, really enticing and very difficult for a quarterback to get locked in on. So I think Lonnie ends up being a really important chess piece that you can move around to different places on this defense.
A little while ago, Johnny, we saw Michael Thomas, a guy that the Texans also signed this offseason, veteran guy. He's so much fun to talk to and so much fun to interview because he is just involved in everything. I mean, he's involved in the social justice movement. He was an intern for Sheila Jackson Lee. I mean, he's just such a fun guy to talk to and so much going on. But when we see him out there on the field, what have you seen from him? How does he fit into the mix? I'm sure his veteran leadership will definitely come in handy, especially if there is a guy like Lonnie that wants to learn the position. You've got Justin, you've got Michael Thomas, you've got a number of veterans there in that safety room. But where do you see Michael Thomas fitting in?
Well, I think the one thing with Michael Thomas you got to start with is on special teams. And when this was a couple days ago, they were doing a punt team drill. And I'll be honest, I've been on punt team many times in my life, in college, high school, etc. I don't think I ever ran down to a punt team cover drill ever. Well, they were working the punt drill out of the end zone. So they had to go from one end zone all the way to the other. And Michael Thomas literally was sprinting down the field to kind of set a tone for the rest of the guys to follow. Like, hey, look, this is special teams. We don't take this off, man. We've got to make plays. And I think Michael Thomas knows his value to this team is probably going to be through the special teams. And he knows that he can be a pretty big, impactful player on special teams. But that leadership to show the other guys on special teams, look, you got to match my energy, man. You got to match what I'm doing. And you see that with guys in the secondary in particular. Keon Crossan is a guy like that. You see A.J. Moore is a guy like that. You know, they got 3 or 4 of those guys back there, man. They're sprinting the punt team. They're sprinting the drills. They're setting a tone for the excitement and the energy you got to have to play this game, especially on a day like today when the sun is bearing down on you. It's 90-some-odd degrees at 10:30 in the morning. They're the guys that provide that energy. And Michael Thomas is a veteran who's been through it. He's been through the battles. He's been through all that, and he still is still showing and providing that energy for his mates. So I think from a leadership perspective, they couldn't have gotten a better player. And from a special teams perspective, I think he's going to help them very, very much. Now at safety, we'll see how that all plays out. Right now, Eric Murray's getting a lot of the reps. But I think from those two perspectives, leadership and special teams, Michael Thomas is a great fit.
All right, safeties, cornerbacks, they cover wide receivers. Let's segue back to the Houston Texans wide receiving core, and let's talk about some of the guys that we have not seen as much of or heard as much about this offseason, because Brandon Cooks, huge addition. Randall Cobb, huge addition. You know about Will Fuller and what he's capable of doing, but there have been some faces that have been fairly impressive early on in training camp. We're looking there at Will Fuller, but how about Stevie Mitchell? How about Chad Hansen? Tell us about some of these guys that have gotten a little bit more of the reps while some of these other guys are ramping up and getting ready for the season, John.
Well, as a coach, when you make a decision and you make the decision with your players and certain players that you're going to ramp them up, slowly to get ready for September 10th, what you're doing is saying, hey, we want to make sure you're ready to go for September 10th. But you're also putting a stake in the ground to the guys behind saying, you guys got an opportunity now. What are you going to do with it? So those guys that you mentioned, Stevie Mitchell, Chad Hansen, those guys have stepped up in a major way in every drill that I've watched and seen. I think it was this past Saturday, Chad Hansen had one of the better days I've seen. He caught everything thrown his way. He got open against everybody. He was absolutely fantastic. And it was just kind of a day of work. It wasn't like he was doing anything so spectacular. He just ran his routes. He got open. He caught the ball. And it sounds simple, right? Do your job, run your route, catch the ball. And it's not always that easy in an NFL offense, but he made it look easy. And Stevie Mitchell is a guy who's been out here. I think it's his 3rd year that he has been with us, and you can tell that he's comfortable with the offense. He knows where to go. He knows what to do. He's been the deep threat thus far early on, and, man, he can go. He just has never really ever gotten a chance since he got to USC. It was always an injury issue. When he got to USC, it looked like he was ready to blow up, and then he'd hurt his knee. Then he'd have he had a decent year, like, okay, the next year's going to be good. He'd have a couple good games, and then he'd get hurt again. And now he's got in Houston. He stayed healthy for the most part, but he's just, unfortunately, been behind veterans the whole time. And, you know, if he got a shot and got a consistent shot for 2, 3, 4 games, who knows what he could do. But what you love about having a guy like Stephen Mitchell, what you love about having a guy like Chad Hansen, is that Deshaun trusts them. He trusts them inherently. So, okay, hey, Will Fuller is banged up, or Brandon Cooks is still ramping up, so he's not going to practice today. The offense doesn't miss a beat because Deshaun has no issue whatsoever throwing to Stevie Mitchell or Chad Hansen because he knows that he can trust them. He's been working with them for a while, and they're going to end up making plays for him. So that's the one thing that could slow your offense down when you put guys out there quarterback doesn't trust. And, man, this is going to look bad. But he trusts those guys, and those guys have rewarded that trust by making plays each and every day. So they're going to make the cut down really, really hard at that wide receiver position, no doubt about it.
Johnny, we're taking a look at some of the wide receivers out there. Number 82, we've gotten some questions on the rookie Isaiah Coulter. He's out there. Gosh, he is really tall. I guess when you see him with the rest of the receivers, you have a good idea of what his body type looks like. I know we've talked about it, but to actually see him out there dressed up with the wide receivers, you get a good sense of his size. Where do you see his role and how he might fit? And I know it's going to be a challenge for him being a rookie, but if things can get clicking for him, where's his best fit?
Well, I think he's got the body type to be I think he's got the body type to be a receiver in this league. I don't know if they thought about him as being a number 1 wide receiver. I don't know if you draft a guy in the 5th round and think one day, yeah, this guy could be our number 1 wide receiver. I think what you look at in a 5th round wide receiver with 6'3", 200 pounds is, hey, can this guy develop year in and year out? Has he got the work ethic? Has he got some elite traits? He's got elite speed at his size. He's 4.45 in the 40. He declared a year early from Rhode Island. So, he's a little younger than some of the guys coming in as rookies. So even if this year was just a complete and total redshirt year for Isaiah Coulter, if he could be healthy all year such that he could practice every single day and just be available, I think that would be a great thing for him. I don't think anybody in this organization thinks, hey, we expect 50 catches from Isaiah Coulter this year. Not even close. I think what they expect is you are available every day, and there might be a time we have to rely on you in a game, and you've got to be ready to go. And in some ways, sort of reminds me of Vincent Smith that way. And Vincent came along at the end of the year and made a couple plays at the end of his rookie year, and maybe that's the way you look at Isaiah Coulter, is that he can do that if you need him later in the year, you're going to be able to rely on him. But just keeping him healthy and keeping him in the mix such that he's not completely forgotten about it, doesn't lose his confidence, then I think you can have something. But I don't think you realistically would expect anything this year. Anything you get from this year, you got to consider that gravy, to be honest, with the receivers you already have on hand.
Good stuff as always from you, John Harris. Really appreciate the time. We will be sure to read Harris Hits later today on HoustonTexans.com. John, take care. We'll see you in a little bit. All right, Texans going through some pass drills. Earlier in the show, DP, we had a question about Kahale Waring. He's number 81. He's out there today. He's catching passes. The tight end's getting some work. We just saw a moment ago. So good to see, and it's good to see Brandon Cooks out there, Will Fuller, Kenny Stills. The whole complement of weapons has been catching some passes. I don't know if they're going through 11 on 11s in the full practice, but they're out there. They're getting some chemistry going with number 4, aren't they?
I think it's really important to get those guys out there because obviously players, they're going to be off. They're actually going to be off tomorrow, so going into the break, it'd be nice to get some of these guys some work, and then they can recover, see how they do, especially some of the guys that had not been practicing full as of late. But yeah, I saw that too. Kahale Waring was fully dressed and out there, and we were just talking about him this morning, so that was good to see. And obviously you see a number of guys that had not been practicing out there. As far as the veterans, I think it's going to be every single day we're going to have to see, watch who's out there and who's not. But you can't really read too much into it because this is a different training camp. It's completely different from years past.
Very different indeed, and we go through some of these questions that you all have sent in to us. We appreciate that. Keep them coming. We love answering them. Ambus has this: where will the pass rush come from this year? Well, the obvious spot to begin with, number 99, J.J. Watt, but There's a group of guys around him at outside linebacker. You can still count on Whitney Merciless. You know what he can do. What is going to happen, though, with Jacob Martin? How much will Brennan Scarlett contribute? Jonathan Grenard at outside linebacker, the rookie. What about
Charles
Omenihu, a guy that you recently spoke with? There's lots of different options. Those guys all need to contribute. The tide needs to rise with them as well if the Texans want to get to where they want to be ultimately in January and February.
I mean, I think they're in a good position with the pass rush. Obviously, health is going to play into it like it always does. But I did speak with Charles Omenihu, and everyone's been really raving about what a camp he's been having. Bill O'Brien has talked about what a great camp he's had. He worked really hard this offseason because he wanted to make a change. He said he felt like he left some plays on the field. And, I mean, last year, his very first game, he went out there and he had a sack against Jacksonville. So it was as good of a start as you could hope for a rookie. But obviously he wanted to work on his technique. And Bill O'Brien even said his technique, everything he's worked on, it's definitely, you can see it out there on the field. I think that heading into year 2, he definitely made that jump that you want from your rookie to your year 2 vet. And he was motivated. He worked out with DeMarcus Ware out there with the Cowboys, all-time sack leader for Dallas. And I'm sure he picked up a thing or two from him. He's got J.J. Watt. He's got Anthony Weaver. And, he's just one of many guys, like you mentioned, because you've still got Scarlett, Merciless, and company.
Well, this has been a lot of fun, DP. Thanks so much for all the insight. Thank you to John Harris for joining us from training camp. Connor Sungura. Mitchell Moreland is back. Thank you for helping get things going there. And, of course, the guy pulling all the strings and making it happen, the puppet master himself, Tyler Marcotte. Good work by him. We thank you all for watching. We thank you for sending in questions. We will be back on Thursday, not tomorrow because the Texans have a rest day, but Thursday we will be back with Texans Training Camp Live. In the meanwhile, go to HoustonTexans.com and check out everything you can about your favorite football team because we have Harris Hits, like we mentioned. DP's going to do an interview later today. The Deep Slant. I've got David Johnson, going to do some Drew's Dozen. And Vandermeer, he's always kicking around, doing something interesting. He'll have a Vandermeer.
I've got notes and quotes as well.
And notes and quotes from DP.
The best of all the press conferences, what was seen and heard today.
Your brain will grow like a muscle, even though it's an organ. Think about that. We'll talk to you again very, very soon. We really appreciate you. Until then, go Texans.